Thank you so much, Clara. And hello, everyone. Welcome. I am going to start sharing my screen so that you all can see what I have prepared for you all. I'm really excited to be here. And one moment. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them at the end of the presentation. I will be asking you some questions, so I would love to know how LinkedIn works out for you in the future or in the past and how you plan to use it. So as Clara said, I am with the Office of Internationalization and I am the English Teaching Assistant or ETA with the Fulbright Commission. And I will be here until December, helping you all out with anything that you have regarding issues with speaking, listening, writing, or reading in English. And the title of my talk is How to Use LinkedIn to Your Advantage, Make Networking Less Awkward. So we're going to get started with a little bit of an agenda. We're going to talk about creating and maintaining a profile, finding and building a network, creating posts, resources that you can use, and then we'll go over any questions that you may have. So I want to ask you all, do you find networking in person easy or awkward? You can raise your hand, you can say something in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves, whichever you feel comfortable doing. Okay, well, for me, networking has been a little bit awkward. It made me a little bit uncomfortable to try to promote myself and the goals that I may have while talking to other people and meeting other people. I know that's something that a lot of people go through from what I've experienced, and for some people it may not be easier online. So now my next question, if anyone feels compelled, is which do you find easier? Do you find it easier to meet people online and network with people online, or do you find it easier to network in person? Don't be shy, guys. Okay, you have something in the chat. In person, yes. Anyone else? Okay, I'll go to my last question. How often do you use LinkedIn? Almost never, once in a while, often, nearly every day, or nearly every week? Okay, didn't see anything. Oh, two things in the chat. Once a week, very often. Okay, great. That's really awesome. I just started using LinkedIn when I got into university myself, so it's pretty common. And so before we get started, I am going to break the ice a little bit with a video on how not to network and how awkward it could be. And hopefully by the end of this, you all have the tools to start improving your networks or to strengthen your networks, and that you can even become a network of networks online. So let's get started with the video.
That's good.
Can everyone hear?
Yes, we can hear.
Perfect. I am going to put some closed captions on as well.
Hey. Hey. So I was just scoping out the vibe of the room, trying to figure out who to talk to. I noticed that you guys were standing with a little gap in between each participant of the conversation, so I thought you'd be more welcoming to a newcomer.
Of course, I'm Dave.
But I promise that I will be slow and make a meaningful connection with both of you. And I am not just looking for a new client or an investor.
Oh, you know what we were just saying?
So I have like a list of topics that I'm willing to talk about. One of them is the latest sporting event or the stocks. the stocks that they go up, but then they come right back down. You know? And now I'll respond with a piece of conversation that's unique to me, like a restaurant tip, or my opinion on a political event, but it won't be too edgy of an opinion. I understand that I've been talking a lot, but I promise I will take time to listen to you guys, to let you talk about things that are interesting to you, to ask you questions. I will lean in while you're talking, raise my eyebrows a little bit like this, and say things like, really? I see. So, what do you guys want to talk about?
I'm gonna get a drink.
Really? I see.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Really? You didn't get my card.
I mean, what are you doing? You could just talk like a person.
Really?
Yeah.
I see.
It seems like you read an article on networking.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I see.
Stop doing that.
Really?
Really.
I see.
I see too.
You're good.
So there you have it, a really good example on what not to do when networking, and also an example to show you all how awkward it could be and how some of us prefer LinkedIn because it could take away that awkwardness that some may have when approaching people face to face. A lot of people use LinkedIn around the world. I personally use LinkedIn to find 3 internships, and I think if we learn how to use LinkedIn and strengthen our profiles, strengthen the way we interact with a lot of people, we could connect a lot more. So I will talk next about creating and maintaining a profile. Let's see if this will work. All right. So does anyone know what I mean when I say that profiles are subjective? Chat. Okay, great. Well, what I mean is that profiles are completely up to you as to how you want to make it. Profiles are the way that you express your creativity online. A lot of times, especially when applying for internships, I know from my experience coming from the United States, a lot of people and a lot of employers will check your online presence. Your online presence is what you post on social media, and LinkedIn is one of those things. So you want to make your profile in a way that accurately reflects you. This is the longest and most daunting process, at least for me. But once you get past this big hurdle, navigating LinkedIn could be a lot easier, or you could find it could be a lot easier. So I'm going to show you some examples to show you that you can go into as little or as much detail as you prefer when talking about your experiences, about your classes, about yourself or your biography. And you can put your most current and most recent jobs and education, or you can put all of them. For instance, my first job was at a bowling alley, and then my second job was at a store. That currently is not on my profile, which you could see, which I will show you, because some of the jobs that I go for are not related to those types of fields. However, it could be really helpful to include that if you want to highlight some of the skills that those jobs have given you. It's all up to you, and it's all subjective. So one tip that someone was sharing with me in the internationalization office that she had heard was that if you put your profile in English and later translate it into Spanish, instead of translating the profile into English, it could be helpful for establishing more connections and opportunities abroad, if that's something that you're interested in. There's no perfect profile. There is nothing that someone may do better than you in creating a profile. It's all up to you. And it's just, you just want to find a really quick, easy, professional way that you can tell about yourself, that you can tell a story about yourself, and that you can at least show yourself to the world in a nice way. So I will show you some profile examples. And if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat, or we can wait until the end. So here is a profile section example. This person, I found both of these profiles online, just random profiles. This person is a LinkedIn premium member. I personally do not have premium. Some people recommend it. I have never used it, so I cannot tell you how beneficial it has been or could be. But it just opens up a bit more doors on getting in touch with other people. But you can see here her About tab is 3 paragraphs long. She talks about her experience in marketing, her business, and some of the things that she owns. Whereas on the side, you have this user who talks about her work in pediatrics, which is medicine or as a doctor with children. And she tells more of a story, saying one of her first memories in school, kind of telling a story with how that inspired her to do her work today. So it can be whatever you want. And you will see in my bio that my bio is very short compared to theirs. So I will now move to the other screen. Can you all see my other screen to see a LinkedIn profile example? Let's see. All right. So here we have a profile example of my friend, actually. We all graduated at the same time, and he takes LinkedIn very, very seriously to connect with others because he is a human resources professional. So here you can add in features like different links about what may be important to you, some of the things or publications that you may have worked on, and some of your activity. He does not have, or his about pages kind of move further to the bottom, and instead his activity is highlighted more so. You can also check out the way he posts, but you can see here that he even uses emojis. And sometimes some people say you should use emojis, some people say that you don't use emojis. So it's all up to the user. He also has bullet points on his experience, and he explains the kind of experiences that he's had as if it were more of a resume. You can see with mine, here is my example of my personal LinkedIn. Mine is a lot more shorter, to the point, and it still helped me. Like you can see my About tab is just 2 straight sentences, really broad, a driven learner and worker devoted to the promotion of human rights, equity, and positive change, always seeking new, exhilarating opportunities in international organizations or non-governmental organizations in the US or abroad. It's a lot shorter, it's to the point, and I still get successes with it. You can see my post, and then my experience. Instead of highlighting what I did, I highlight the skills that I've gotten with that. So it's all up to the person. And now I'm going to change my screen once more so that you all can see some more examples on finding a network. Now, this could be the most awkward part of using LinkedIn. I remember when I was starting on LinkedIn that finding and building a network was one part of me that I felt like I did not know how to do, but I'm here to help you out and to share some tricks with you on some things that I've done as well that have been super helpful for me in building a network. So you can start, for instance, with UTEC and their connections. You can use filters as well So for example, I went to Butler University in Indianapolis. I will also show you all this. I typed in Butler and I searched that, and I also used filters. So on LinkedIn, you start off with yourself. Your first level connections are connections that you are connected to. It's kind of like your friends on Facebook. And then your second level connections are people that your connections are level to. You are not connected to your second level connections. But if you do want to become connected to your second level connections, that could be a good way to start, is to see if that person, if your first level knows that person really well, and maybe they can connect you too. Or you can just send a connection. And then your third level connections. You have no relation to this person, but it does not mean that you cannot establish a connection with this person. I've done it, and I'm going to help you out with how to do that. So one trick that I have is to also connect with those who have the roles that you want. So for example, if you want an internship in data analysis with a company in Peru or in the United States or wherever you may want to be, one of those tricks is to look up that company on LinkedIn and then look at people who maybe have worked at that company, and then connect with them, interact with them, and send them a note to have an informational interview. The cool thing about LinkedIn, like I said, is that it kind of takes away that awkwardness, because it's a whole website dedicated to meeting people and establishing professional connections. So no one is going to think that you're strange for wanting to meet with them and learn about their job. One of the best ways to do that is through LinkedIn, and it's a nice way for them to get to know you a little bit before you have that meeting. When I say informational interviews, that means like a 10 to 15 minute talk about what they do, any questions that you may have about the job that they have, or to share any information about yourself, especially if you're hoping to be in the same role that they would want to be in. This is also helpful because you get to notice the path that someone takes to get to where they are. It'll be really helpful for you, again, going back to the data example. You could know that, okay, if I want an internship in data, a good step I could take could be to join this club or to work with this company during or during the summertime or during my breaks. Most importantly, once you have your network established, you want to interact continuously with them. This is what helps make your networking less awkward, because it doesn't seem like you are a stranger to them anymore. You can do this by, of course, making posts, but interacting with their posts, commenting on their posts, sending them different articles that you maybe have found online that could relate to what they're working on. You could repost different articles that maybe relate to them, and it will make you seem more familiar to them. This is the perfect place to do it, right here online using the LinkedIn app or website. So now I will show you some of the ways that you can find and build a network. You can see, I'll show you how to use filters and how to maintain those connections as well. I'm going to change my screen once more to go back to LinkedIn and show you how making connections. So starting with connections, here at the top of your page, there is a tab called My Network. I'm sure from the students who told me that they use LinkedIn a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you know how to access this area, but you can have a recommended for you tab. You can have people that you may know. Again, I went to Butler University. And then you can have top emerging creators, audio events, things that may be interesting to you, or groups that you may be interested in. So you can go back to my friend's profile to see, there it is. to see some of his connections and how we can filter to make connections. So we both attended Butler University. I'll click on his connections, and this is how I established a lot of my connections when I was just first starting. I used some of the people that I already knew, and I looked at their connections and started to connect with them. So maybe I want to go to California in the United States. That can be a filter that I'll put. And maybe my company, I want to go with Warner Media or University of California in Merced. All right, there's 20 results. I can pick any of these people and connect with them. And since this is a second level connection, I could even ask Marcos, that's his name, do you know much information, or are you well connected to this person? And could you possibly introduce us? Because I am interested in learning more about business econ at the University of California, for example. Also looking at Butler University, you have Andy and 58 other connections who work here. You can also do first, second, and third. So you can do the same thing with UTEC. All right, there's 2,000 people who are associated with Butler University. They could be, we can go greater Indianapolis, Indiana. And then that makes the number of connections go down even more. And I can connect with them on that same level of saying, oh, you went to Butler or you attend Butler. I also have attended Butler. You could do the same thing with UTEC. One more example I'm going to show you with establishing connections. We can go with any company that you would like to work with. So for instance, I worked with and I really enjoy working with the United Nations. So you can go here, and again, connections. I'll go second this time. And I would like to get to the Washington, D.C. area. Again, you can connect. Once you connect, you can send them a note of maybe 2 or 3 sentences. Hello, I looked at your profile and I would love to learn more about X, Y, and Z, about public information. How did you get that internship? Please reach back out to me at this email address. And a lot of people are really happy to talk about how they got certain roles and are really happy to share that information with you. So those are just some examples on finding and building a network. And we will continue on with making posts. Oh, again, yes, as I just showed you, finding a network, you go to the My Network tab, you can change your location. So creating posts. So this could be a challenge as well, but it is probably, compared to building a profile, probably one of the easier sides, because the profile is more in depth or longer to create. However, posts are a way for you to stay relevant and a way for you to share pieces of your professional achievements with others on a more common base. So you can post work, professional, internship, and even some life updates that maybe have impacted your work. You can talk about graduating, or you can talk about, as a student, at the end of the semester, I had the chance to work with this professor, or I had the chance to work on this project and I launched this startup and I'm really excited about it. I would like to share this with my professional network. You can also make reposts, comment, add photos, share articles if you're not too sure on what to post. The posts do not have to be that long either. They don't have to be a certain length at all. And there's no huge criteria on what exactly to include in that post. I recommend maybe 2 to 5 sentences, because the longer it gets, some people may or may not read them. And then how often to post, again, subjective, up to you, but I would say enough to stay relevant. I've heard in the past some people say once a week post you should post once every 1 to 2 weeks, which is the side that I usually try to aim at. Or you can say once a month, but I would recommend enough to stay relevant. If you are not posting, maybe interact with other posts more, repost, comment, because LinkedIn will still share with your network when you like the post, when you commented on something, or if you celebrated something. And also you can use that time when you're not posting to interact with those connections that you maybe have made. And now I'm going to show you a little bit more of some examples of how posts can look. And then I'll ask you all as well, what do you notice about these posts? So I'll scroll down my feed. Okay, see more. And anyone can unmute themselves. Anyone can say in the chat, what is something that you noticed in common about these posts? Oops. Anyone? Okay, anyone, don't be shy. Okay, well, I will tell you all that one thing that is the most common about these posts is that they're not too long, they're catchy, they may tag some people, but they all have pictures. This one's pretty lengthy. They all have some pictures, they all have media, they use hashtags as well. And some may even use emojis. But you want to make these posts colorful, digestible, and something that can catch people's eyes when you're posting. That's something that you notice a lot, especially on LinkedIn, is that a lot of people will include some sort of media with their LinkedIn to be able to catch people's eyes and also simultaneously tell them about the work that they're doing in a fun and short way. Now we're going to talk about some resources on how to improve your networking skills using LinkedIn or in general to make networking less awkward. So of course, you can use UTEC Career Services. I totally recommend them and I thank them for having me here. You can use this book that is called Never Eat Alone. This was a book that I personally read and it is really, really helpful in teaching you how exactly to maintain relationships and how to establish relationships with others on a professional level. I totally recommend that book. Self-Made Millennial is a human resources professional who has plenty of videos on LinkedIn. And I will show you all her page. She even has things on interviewing and everything related to a job, salary negotiation, if that's something that you're interested in, and different ways and tactics on how to get jobs and how to maintain yourself professionally. You can also use each other. Again, one of the easiest ways I used to find connections and maintain connections was using my friends. You can use LinkedIn pages, recruiters, influencers. LinkedIn influencing is becoming a lot more popular, and George Anders is a writer. I believe he works at LinkedIn, but you can look at their pages, look at the things that they write to kind of see how is it that people are using LinkedIn. You can pick that if you want, if it's up to you. It's up to you on how you choose to use LinkedIn, but you can see these are the ways that people are using LinkedIn. And if you hope to mimic your profile in that same way, you can totally do that. So here's some of that. And you can also use your connections as well. So I thank you so much for having me today. And I welcome you all with any questions that you may have. I would love to hear from you all. And yes, I can clarify anything that you may have as well.